This could be us. So back to what I was saying. Could be us.
So basically, I will briefly cover some game settings that you should be using, just in general, not just for Firebrand, but obviously it applies to Firebrand too. Talk about some camera settings as well. Let's go through the options first, just make sure everyone's got some general stuff ticked that they should have ticked. Some of these are really important that you either have them ticked or unticked. Some of them are less important and it's personal preference. So the first ones that I've put down is show all usable object names. This is just for food, basically. If you have it ticked, the names of the food are always shown, so it's very easy to see which one to pick up. Next one is show skill recharge. Everyone should have this ticked. There's no debate for that. Just have that ticked, definitely. You need to know when your skills are coming up. Show target health percent. Not that important, but I have it on because it's nice. Thick party health bars. I find this very useful. You're responsible for your own party. You're not responsible for the rest of the squad. Have this on. It just makes it easier to see your own party health bars. Next is your camera settings. Most important one here is your field of view. You want your field of view as high as possible. This isn't really up for discussion either. You just want it as high as possible. It's not personal preference. You need it high so you can see everything that's going on, basically. I would also recommend your vertical position near and far. Just shove them up a bit. It's personal preference where you want them. You can get used to them wherever. But you need them a little bit at the very least. Camera shake, you need this disabled. That's not up for discussion either. Camera shake, turn it off. It's just a distraction. You don't need that at all. Use free camera. I have this ticked. This is a kind of personal preference as well. If you tick this, it means when you left click and drag, it holds the position where you're looking, basically, which means when you're running around, you can cast skills behind you, etc. It also comes into play with about face, which I'll talk about later when I go through some keybinds. First person camera doesn't matter. I have it on because it's fun to run first person sometimes. Next is the combat movement skills. So ground targeting. On Firebrand, you either want this to be on normal or fast with range indicator. I'd really not recommend having instant for Firebrands. You can, it's personal preference again. I have mine on normal, but faster with range indicator is also okay. Double tap to evade. You need this turned off. Definitely need it turned off. You don't want to accidentally dodge sometimes and waste your dodge cooldowns. Auto targeting, you need this one turned off as well. It's more prevalent for the other classes, but just have it turned off for every class. You never need auto targeting turned on. Melee attack assist here. Absolutely 100% have this turned off. Never have this ticked. If you have it ticked, it means you can't run through enemies, basically. The next one, lock ground target at maximum skill range. Personal preference again, but I'd strongly recommend this. If you lock it at maximum skill range, it'll only ever be green, which means no matter how far you move your cursor away from yourself, it's going to put it at max range. It just means that on the range spikes, for example, which are 1200 range, you'll get that perfect 1200 range. Next one, for World versus World, standard enemy models I would have turned on. Standard friendly models as well, you can turn on if you're having FPS issues. But standard enemy models, I'd strongly advise you turn this on. It'll help your FPS, and it'll mean you can see what classes they are a little bit easier. Next thing, show all commander tags. Doesn't matter whether you have this on or not. It's a personal preference. If you have it turned off, it will just make it slightly easier to see which of my tag when there's more than one commander around. I like being able to see them all personally because I don't have a problem distinguishing the tags usually. Graphics options, you're playing World versus World, turn them low. If you want to play well, you have to have them low, unfortunately. The most important ones are character model limit, character model quality. Quality, I just have on lowest. Yeah, I want the most FPS possible because I want to win. Character model limit, I would advise not having this on the lowest. This is the one that hurts your FPS the most. I put it on medium. Ideally, you want it as high as you can get it with playable FPS. Medium, I find, is suitable. If you turn it low, it just means that less players render in for you, and that makes it very difficult to see what's going on a lot of the time. So I'd recommend not having it on lowest. Medium is fine. Effect LOD is the only other thing. Make sure that's ticked. If you have it unticked, your FPS is going to suffer. We'll go through controls next. Firstly, movement. I would strongly recommend you do not have your key turn keybound. I would recommend you have your A and D on strafe instead. This just means, obviously, when you have it on turn left and turn right, if you hold down right click and press A and D, it strafes. All this means is you don't have to hold down your right click to strafe, which means you can do other things with your camera and still strafe. When you get used to it, this is considerably better, and it's just no arguing really. It's the better option. It's going to feel weird to begin with, but when you get used to it, you'll be thankful of it. I would strongly recommend you do that instead, and just don't have your keybind bound. Auto run is actually very useful for Ward versus Ward. Just put it somewhere where you can use it. Auto run's quite useful. Last thing here, about face. About face is very useful. It takes a very long time to get used to how to use the about face key properly. When you get used to it, it's one of the most useful things in the game. For example, when I was commanding yesterday, quite often we'd be going for fake pushes to try and bait the enemy range spike, which a lot of the time is successful. I'll be giving a countdown to turn around. So we'll be running, I'll say turn around in 3, in 2, in 1, and you press your about face key as soon as I get to 1, and that's it. You don't need to worry about moving your camera around. Just saves you all the effort. You just press one button and you turn around. This goes back to the thing I said earlier about the free camera. So if you have about face keybound and you've left clicked before you press about face, you stay looking the same way as well. This is basically what you want to do. So we're fake pushing, you have your left click going, turn around, and you can still see the enemy while you're moving away. You always want to have your camera pointed towards the enemy. It just means that you can keep watching what they're doing. If they're running at you, we know to keep running away, etc. You can see when they're range spiking, for example, if you're looking at them all the time, and you can time your dodges properly. But because of this left click thing as well, I can let go of everything. I'm still looking behind me, and I can be casting skills while I'm running away as well. This goes for every single class as well. It's not just on Firebrand. Some skills can't be used behind you. They can only be used in front of you. It's going to take a long time to get used to. If you're a beginner, perhaps don't start off with that. Just try and learn the basics of your positioning and stuff first, and then move on to that later on. But yeah, it's something I'd certainly recommend you keybind and get used to using. Weapon skills. What I would recommend is your skills 1 to 5 are fine to be on 1 to 5. Your utility skills, however, a lot of people are going to struggle to reach the number 6 without impacting how they're moving. So using your WASD to press 6 is a bit of a stretch. I would recommend you rebind these to other things. You want to try and rebind your keybinds so that they're easy to reach around your WASD keys. So obviously you've got caps lock, shift, control, Q, E, R. Anything around that WASD is where you want to try and keybind things to. Again, it takes a long time to get used to if you've just had default keybinds on for a while, but you'll thank yourself for it later on. Targeting, make sure you have cool target and take target keybound. Take target, it doesn't have to be on T, just whatever you can press easily. This is more useful for small scale and GVG, but certainly in blob fights as well, you will single target sometimes. Someone in your party, perhaps yourself, can click on whoever the commander wants you to target, press your cool target, which for me is Control T, and then anyone else in the party just presses take target T, and they have that person targeted, and they can then use their skills on them. As I say, it's more useful for smaller scale, but for blob fights, still sometimes you do target people, so it is useful to have this keybound and to use it. When you are casting skills, symbol for example, everything has a cast time. You can see the little yellow bar that goes when you press it. During that cast time, you can cancel the skill if you either press escape. So escape will cancel your skills, but escape's kind of a bit out of the way sometimes. So you can bind stow weapon, which does kind of the same job as escape. It just means that when you're casting something, if you press stow, you see it cancel the animation and it put this on a 3-second cooldown. It's useful for things like your banner. So if you're running Signet of Mercy, for example, you can cast your banner, and then if they rally or something, you just press your stow weapon, it cancels, and you don't waste that cooldown. Something, again, if you're a beginner, perhaps don't go straight onto that, but if you've been playing Firebrand a while, I'd certainly recommend either getting used to using escape to cancel things or using stow.
Unfortunately, you can't use like weapon stow for canceling your signet on your tomes, so you have to press escape for that.
This is just what I recommend. This is what I use. Some of them I've said are kind of compulsory, like the field of view and things. Camera shake, you don't want that on. I like keybinding things to my mouse because it's just very easy to press it, and it's just less buttons to press on my keyboard. It's difficult having everything bound on your keyboard within reach without having to do sort of hold control and press buttons.
This could be us. So back to what I was saying.